I'm Althea Viafora Kress. This is Vernissage TV. Brian Keith Jackson, novelist, critic, curator, literary figure, organized an exhibition sponsored by Bombay Sapphire for their week entitled Inspired, and he curated a show called Shaken and Not Deterred. And I'm delighted to welcome Brian Keith Jackson and some of the artists that participated in this exhibition, which also sponsored the Thurgood Marchell College Fund. Welcome, Brian, and your guests.
Well, thanks for having me. Yes, it was very exciting. I did the curatorial aspects of Shaken and Deterred, which is what I decided to call the show, because it was benefiting the Thurgood Marchell College Fund, and that fund has put 6,000 African American kids through college. So these artists graciously gave me work to exhibit. I did 30 or so studio visits and came up with 12 artists, of which I have 3 here today. Mickalene Thomas here to my right.
Hello.
I have Shinique Amie Smith to my left, and then I have Navin Norling also to my left. And they're going to speak a little bit about the work that they displayed as well as the work that they're currently doing. Mickey?
Hi, my name is Mickalene Thomas, and I participated in the Shaken Not Deterred, was it?
Deterred.
Deterred, I was right, show. I presented a portrait of a friend. It's called Afro Goddess's Ex-Lover's Friend, in parentheses, Kike, along with a portrait of 2 women titled A Moment's Pleasure. The portrait was based on a series that I started alongside the Odaless series, and it's a particular series that I'm working on of just basic headshots, straight-on portraits of black women to present this sense of sensuality and beauty. And the black and white photograph that's in the show is kind of a take on that, and where the photograph is based from a studio setting where I kind of put together props and arrange the installation to create this kind of old scenario, like based in the 70s nostalgia. And so that's what A Moment's Pleasure is.
And Shinique Amie Smith.
Hi, I'm Shinique Smith, and I also participated in Shaken Not Deterred. The work that I exhibited is called Detail, and it was inspired by a detail of a mixed media installation that I did in Chicago. It's cut paper and calligraphy. My work culls from a lot of different sources, from the graffiti of my youth and from the everyday, the mundane, and they all sort of mix up into this combination of a harmonious chaos. So I was really happy to participate.
And Navin Norling.
Okay. Hello, I'm Navin Norling, and I was in the Shaken Not Deterred show also, right? Exactly, right? Anyway, my piece was called Diamonds Are Forever, which was a installation piece that was a combination of some ready-made parts that were from props and also some display boxes that I created a installation of presents using multi-medium devices like glass, crystal, leather, and mirrors, yeah. And well, basically it was a representation of the play off of that old Diamonds Are Forever kind of joke, and sort of the poetry of that with the hands, these whimsical hands that I placed that are kind of doing these sort of things, and they're sort of play sort of like gang symbols or quotation marks, and I kind of like have that encapsulating all the boxes, and they're all embellished with crystals to kind of give it this real fetish. And this is something I do with a lot of different work. I work in a lot of different mediums and materials, and I kind of use a combination of things that are found from the trash, which is partially what this stuff was, and also things that I fabricate myself. And basically, the Diamonds Are Forever is my you know, a joke that I kind of like work off of different things like song titles, and so I just, you know, hope everybody enjoys it. Yeah.
And Brian, why did you choose the theme of the show, and why did you select these particular artists? How did they work overall?
Well, I'm more known in the States as, I guess abroad as well, as a novelist. So I went to see a lot of work that I felt spoke to me from a literary viewpoint as opposed to the art historic. I allowed them to bring that to me because I think sometimes you can get so caught up in the art because you know so many points of reference of this and this, of the academic aspect, and I didn't really want to foster that. I wanted to just say, no, this speaks to me and it will speak to others as well. And each of these artists' works said that. It was very literary, and they are each finding their own voice in an exciting way. So that's why Shaken Not Deterred came, you know, because I don't profess to be an art critic, but throughout life, arts have used literary works. And so now I think it's great that writers can go to art and find the same inspiration, and that's what these three do for me.
So there were individual narratives, and then there was a collective narrative.
Yes.
And as artists, did you also see that connection from your work to your work to your work? Did you see a dialogue that didn't exist in the studio that later manifested itself in this exhibition?
I believe there's a dialogue with my work and Shinique and Navin's work. Just basic materials that I use in my work, which are rhinestones. Navin used some of that kind of materials in his work, and more so with Shinique along the line of collaging, not necessarily collaging in the paintings, but maybe the studio setting that I put together in different fabrics and layering and patterns and that nature relates to her work and her sculpture and her collages and paintings as well.
And then Navin and I both found objects and trash, transforming those things into a higher form of art.
Do you see this as generational?
Yeah, and also like just the sort of the whimsical part of Shanique's work is a lot like my work in graffiti and sort of using the gesture, and also I have a connection with Mickalene's work with just some of the iconography or sort of some of the using nostalgia and also the power symbols and things and feminine power and everything. I think we all have a sort of a mixture of all of those things, but it also takes on to different lights with each of our work.
And for me also it was really important because when I started going to the studio visits, the first like 4 artists that I chose were all women. And it wasn't something that was going to be like you always see these shows where they're female artist shows only, but I was drawn to it. And so 6 of the 12 were women, and that's really rare in exhibitions. Absolutely. In a role that is usually dictated by men.
Was the title determined after you selected the artist or prior to your selection?
Well, I knew because Bombay Sapphire was the underwriter of the event that I just thought it was a great title and relevant to, again, the Thurgood and Marchell College Fund, as well as being, you know, people of color in the art world, making sure that we may be shaken, but we'll still do whatever we have to do to get our work out there and have it represented in an equal and well-enlightened way.
Absolutely.